לשנה הבאה בירושלים.
In 70 AD, Rome besieged Jerusalem. After a long resistance, the city fell, and the Jewish people were exiled from their homes and homeland. Families and communities scattered to the four corners of the world. Wherever they went, they preserved their religious and cultural identities. Though dispersed for centuries, their faith and traditions held them together. But the world was changing. Surviving on faith alone was no longer enough. Soon, these quiet, scattered lives would have to face a profound transformation. Next year in Jerusalem was repeated as a prayer for centuries, but by the 19th century, these words had become more than just an expression of faith. The world was changing, and with that change, prayers took on a new meaning. A wish uttered in faith was slowly turning into a political demand. The French Revolution changed the world, not just for one country, but for all societies. Liberty, equality, and fraternity. These values showed that a people could be defined by a common identity, not just by religious or sectarian ties. Nations were being reshaped through history, language, and a sense of shared destiny. Individuals no longer saw themselves only as part of local communities, but as part of a nation. During this process, many new national building movements emerged. Germany unified. Italy was born as a modern state. States based on different ethnicities were established in the Balkans. In the Ottoman geography, Turanist movements rose. These movements, based on secular nationalism, represented the spirit of the age and the new logic of the modern world. For scattered communities, this was not just a change in consciousness. It was a test to protect their existence and carry it into the future. It was now inevitable to strengthen their identity, organize, and build a secure future. In this new political atmosphere, Jews also had to rethink their position. Attacks in Russia, social exclusion, and an environment of insecurity deepened this questioning. In Europe, the rise of the modern state was redefining concepts of citizenship, belonging, and identity. The safety and existence of a community were now directly linked to a political framework. Under these conditions, Zionism began to take shape as a search for a specific political solution, paralleling the general nationalization trends of the 19th century. The person who turned this scattered search into a single idea and political program was Theodore Herzl. Herzl did not treat the Jewish question as a religious or cultural issue, but as a direct political problem. To him, the matter was clear. A dispersed community could only guarantee its security and future within its own political structure. This approach separated Zionism from other debates. It was no longer just about preserving identity. It was about how to establish sovereignty. His work, The Jewish State, published in 1896, was the first systematic expression of this idea. A year later, with the Congress held in Basel in 1897, this project became an organized movement rather than just an idea. Representatives from different countries came together around a common goal for the first time: a homeland for the Jews. This meeting was not just a beginning, it was the open declaration of a long process. Theodore Herzl took this process forward at diplomacy tables. He met with state representatives in various European capitals, advocated for his ideas, and took steps to ensure the movement's international recognition. Zionism was now a planned political program. Simultaneously, waves of migration began. Many Jews from Eastern Europe left their homes and villages behind in search of a new future, carrying their belongings and their hopes. Every step was not just a relocation, but the first concrete step of a national building process. This process of organization and diplomacy, starting from Basel, combined with settlement plans and social organization in Palestine as the 20th century began, turning it into a physical reality. The year 1917 was a critical turning point for the Zionist movement. The United Kingdom announced its support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. This statement went down in history as the Balfour Declaration. It was more than just a diplomatic gesture. It showed that international politics recognized the Zionist project and that it had become a global issue. This declaration provided great momentum for the Zionist movement. Now, ideas were not only being discussed at tables, but were also being legitimized by the international system. However, for the Arab population living on the same lands, this was a harbinger of new uncertainty and tension. The Balfour Declaration revealed that Zionism was not just a national project, but a political move that changed the balance of power in the region. During this period, migration accelerated, settlements multiplied, and the planned construction process became clearer. Following the 1917 Balfour Declaration, the Zionist movement was coming to life as a physical process. Planned and regular migrations gained momentum. Socialist and secular ideas from Eastern Europe guided new settlement projects. Among the structures that emerged, the most striking were the Kibbutzim. The kibbutz was a community model based on collective living and production. Community members managed land, production, and daily life together, with everyone having equal responsibilities and rights. The goal was not just to establish a settlement, but to create a self-sufficient society model based on organized solidarity. By the 1930s, the Jewish community in Palestine was no longer a small experiment. Settlements had grown, institutions had strengthened, and a political structure had begun to sprout. But in those same years, a very different process was beginning in Europe. In 1933, the National Socialist Party came to power in Germany. The following years were shaped by a series of laws that first reduced Jews to second-class citizens and then excluded them entirely. The 1935 Nuremberg laws effectively stripped Jews of their citizenship. Dismissals from professions, seizures of property, and systematic exclusion from the public sphere meant the last remnants of assimilation collapsed. This process accelerated migration to Palestine. Between 1933 and 1939, approximately 250,000 Jews came to Palestine. Most were educated, urban, and secular people from Germany and Central Europe. They were different from those who came before. They were not coming to realize an ideal, but because the order they lived in had collapsed. This new wave of migration changed the structure in Palestine. More educated, urban, and professional people joined existing settlements. The economy diversified, and the institutional structure grew stronger. An organized system began to form in health, education, and production. Settlements were no longer just housing areas, but a functioning social order. This process also clarified the strategy of the Zionist movement: migration, settlement, and institutionalization. Three main lines advancing together. By the end of the 1930s, the picture was clear. In Palestine, there was no longer a scattered community, but a structure that was organized within itself and had established its economic and social infrastructure. And this structure would soon face the harsh conditions of war. In 1939, the war began. Europe was quickly dragged into massive destruction. The Nazi regime intensified its policies against Jews. First, ghettos were established, followed by systematic deportations. By the early 1940s, this had turned into mass extermination. Millions of Jews were sent to camps established in different parts of Europe. This was not just a consequence of war, it was a planned and systematic policy of destruction. During the war years, migration to Palestine was severely restricted, and many people found no place to flee. This situation made the Zionist movement's core claim even more visible. The safety of a dispersed people could not be left to the mercy of other states. When the war ended, a great devastation remained. Millions had lost their lives, and the Jewish presence in Europe was largely eradicated. This opened the door to an irreversible process. Europe was in ruins, cities destroyed, and economies collapsed. 6 million people had died. Those who remained were trying to survive amidst trauma and loss. Under these conditions, the search for a secure homeland was no longer a choice, but a vital necessity. Palestine became the center of this search due to its historical and symbolic meaning. Immediately after the war, migration accelerated as Jews who survived Europe headed here to start anew. In 1947, the United Nations announced a plan to partition the region to propose a permanent solution. One side for a Jewish state, the other for an Arab state. This decision officially recognized and legitimized the long-standing Zionist project at an international level. On May 14, 1948, the State of Israel was declared. This was not just the founding of a state, it was the culmination of a centuries-long effort by a dispersed and exiled people to establish their own sovereignty and security. Migrations, settlements, and social organizations were now taking shape on a concrete reality rather than just an ideological one. Educational institutions, urbanization, and cultural and economic infrastructure, combined with experiences gained before and during the war, formed the foundation of the new state. However, this new beginning brought diplomatic and regional complexities. Disputes between neighboring countries and international actors, along with issues like state security and the determination of borders, turned the aftermath of Israel's founding into an intense diplomatic and military process. Thus, Zionism took its place on the world stage no longer just as an idea, but as a historical reality and a state project. Contrary to common assumptions, the establishment of Israel was not initially realized as a religion-based state, but through a secular and modern nationalist mindset. The state, which is at the center of politics today, was shaped in its founding and institutionalization processes according to the dominant global political trends. The rise of nationalism in the 19th and 20th centuries and the pursuit of nation-states were effective in determining Israel's ideology. At the root of the state lay secular nationalism first, followed by left-leaning movements. However, the modernization contradictions of the Middle East showed themselves here as well. A secular nation-building process required religious references and rituals for a common memory and identity. Consequently, due to constant security concerns in the region and changing global power balances, Israel developed a dynamic that slowly evolved from its secular and modern nationalist foundation toward religious fanaticism. This process brought about not only an ideological transformation, but also a transition from the relative victimhood and fragility of its founding period to a dominant political and military position in the region.